Okay, Common Gamer here. I'm going to do the history of autism part 4. 1979 till, and I'll go all the way up till, to 2010s and in 2010s. Okay, this is the final part for this year of the history of autism videos. Next week, I'll be doing, blogs of day-to-day of autism. Alright, 1979, the Inclusive Education Act of Canada and of Nova Scotia, the area of Canada I live in. In 1979, they had Inclusive Education Act and IPP, Individual Self-Program, where people with autism or people with any sort of disability can get the IPP if they qualified for it, but schools would segregate you, kind of, but you're allowed to go into schools now, and yeah, they were kind of segregated in like a separate room for a while, and that happened in the 1980s too. The workforce in the 1980s didn't really hire much autistics. They didn't really understand and some work programs would pay you like $1 a week, which wasn't right. Some programs wouldn't pay you at all, which is definitely not right. Some places would hire someone with autism, but they didn't really understand much. First, the job coaches came around trying to get employment for people with autism because they know we're fully capable of working. And in the 1980s, we saw first of the videos of like movies of autism, like Rain Man. That movie's dated now, but back in the 80s that was good because it showed the spectrum, but that's very dated because not everyone on the spectrum is like that. Like, I understand how much a chocolate bar is worth. It's like 85 cents or 89 cents at like the dollar store, and it can be $1 at like a grocery store or $2 if it's expensive. And I understand the concept of that. And yes, and then there was like Gilbert Grape. He was on the spectrum. The spectrum's very wide. You could be nonverbal, you could have developmental delay, it's just different. In the 80s, there was more stuff about autism. Still, people didn't understand it as much. They weren't really aware or accepted it yet. The 90s, it was a lot better. In the 90s, they would put people with autism in multiple classrooms, not segregated anymore, because the Inclusive Education Act changed where they're like, why should we segregate people with autism out of classrooms? This would be in the same classroom as everyone else. So that's what they did. And in 1994, that's the year I was diagnosed with autism. It was even better. And then and then the rest of the 90s, people with autism were joining the workforces, and people were people with autism people were starting to understand it more. And then the 2000s decade, it got even better. And when I was in high school, I didn't have to go to assemblies anymore because they understood that it was too loud. I just went to the learning center, which is a inclusive area of a school where a safe place. And then by the 2010s, they used to do autism awareness, and then they changed it to autism acceptance, but now I call it autism education. In the 2010s, the workforce was a lot better for people on the spectrum. They started advocating, saying I should be paid minimum wage, at least for starting off. And that's what happened. And 2019 2019, it got better. By 2020, the workforce understood autism, and they still are learning now. And in 2020, laws got put in place where people on the spectrum and have to be paid at least minimum wage for minimum for like, and it's a lot better today than how it used to be. Now I'll call it education. This concludes the history of autism, but now I hope the future will be bright. We still got a ways to go, but we came a long ways, but we still got a ways to go. With autism, like people need to get more training for it, and that, well, this last this history video was the brightest. This is called the bright times, where the dark times were over and the sun rose, and hopefully will never set, because people with autism will take over the world, and we're trying to live normal lives. And that's what we're trying to do. I hope you enjoyed these History of Autism videos. I will make them again next year, in April of 2025. But don't worry, I'm still making autism videos on Fridays. And happy Autism Education Month.